let me first say a few words about why I started. So, maybe to understand that, it's helpful to understand a little bit how I grew up, because this is me in the yellow helmet. My parents were adventurers and decided to travel the world on motorcycles. So here we are in South America, going on our first long journey, and this kept happening throughout my upbringing. So I've seen a lot of the world. I've seen a lot of women's lives all over the planet, and it sits very deeply in me, this sense of when women have agency over their bodies, they can decide for themselves what life will happen around. And until you have that, it's quite challenging. So somehow I managed to make motorcycles part of my education, and have kind of curated my own education in weird ways since I was 14, and here I am in Mexico on my first trip on my own motorcycle, 18 years old, trying to fix a broken tire. And then I started a motorcycle touring company with my dad, and I got this idea to see if I could run this business from my laptop and my little satellite device and my tent and my motorcycle out in the desert of America. As an kind of crazy idea, I had to see if I could have a very, very simple life. And it was meant to be a 7-month project, but it ended up being so much fun that I did it for 2 years and wrote a book about it. So my life has basically always been about having some idea that I, for whatever reason, found really meaningful, and then just kind of gone for it. So at some point I was like, why is the thing about family planning so old school? Like, we're still taking the pill, which is basically the same product that came out of the 50s, which is 70 years ago. So in the history of technology, that's like forever. We have put people on the moon since then, and yet the way that we manage something as fundamental as our reproduction really has had very little innovation. And I kind of got provoked. I was like, how is this even possible? How has nobody put their minds to really work on this problem? So I decided to go from motorcycles to female cycles. And this was back in 2009. And then, so I had this idea to see if, maybe there was some innovation that had made it to the market. I looked at lots of patent databases to see if there was a technology I could puzzle together and come up with something new. And so I started thinking about this idea, and what I did first was that I put this post-it note in the middle where it said, Ida Vision Holder. That was like, that must be my core thing. And then I kind of came up with this imaginary team of people that I imagined would be needed to bring this idea to life. So it was complete fiction. But there was a few kind of big trends that I believed that I saw in the world. I saw that people wanted less chemistry in their lives. I saw that we had supercomputers coming into everybody's pockets all over the planet, so we could process this data, and I saw that we had more sensor technologies coming out that would enable us to really understand what was going on in our bodies. So I felt like if we could bring these different emerging technologies together, we could come up with some solution that would enable us to understand our bodies and manage our lives based on data and not on chemistry. So that seemed like a great idea back then. I still think it's a good idea. I didn't quite know what it meant. I think I understand better what it means now, but that was the beginning. So women have these constant changes that goes on in their bodies for 40 years of their lives, and it raises a lot of questions throughout that journey. Questions like, am I normal? Am I healthy? Can I become pregnant? Can I still become pregnant? When will I go into menopause? Like, what kind of birth control? All kind of questions. Women have so many questions. And we thought, well, what if we could help people answer some of these questions? So we built an app which is basically about enabling women to understand what is going on in my body. Because even though those are maybe simple answers or simple questions, the answers are really, first of all, not so easy to get, and secondly, they are quite influential on our lives, our well-being. So we built a tracking app that allows people to track experiences they have around their body, and we can help them with forecasts and predictions about when is your next period going to come, what might you experience regarding your mood, sex drive, and many other things. So I then very fast began talking to investors. Before I had anything, I had no team, I had no product, I had no sense of business model, and it was, now I kind of wonder like what I said in these meetings, but I learned a lot, and I think that was the key, just trying to learn really fast, what do they ask about, how do we think about this, and then eventually I met a man who, the first thing we ever talked about at a tech conference was my idea for pool. He then became my life partner, baby, very fast, and then, I must say that because of the job I have, and then moved to Berlin from Copenhagen and found another 3 guys to start this company with. So I founded the company with 4 guys, launched it in summer of 13 in San Francisco. We founded the company with 5 business angels that each put in 10,000 euros. So we were basically out of money from the beginning. We went into immediate fundraising mode and stayed there for the next 4 years. Raised 3 million euros in seed money from many different angels, and then eventually raised our first institutional round from European and US investors, 7 million, and then later another 20 million. So, just a few words on investors. We have chosen our investors very carefully. We have also had one investor that we managed to manage out again. Choosing your investors is really important because they are going to be influential. They are going to be your advisors. They're going to have style that they bring, opinions, and we have tried to choose people that we really trust, that we respect, and that we believe share our vision very deeply. This is one of our board meetings in our office in Berlin. We think of them as advisors more than anything. We discuss many things. We try to have a very transparent relationship with them. We share things that are in progress and kind of painful to share because they are totally undone. But I think that's really important to keep maintaining that trust that is really needed. Important. So now the imaginary team has become a real team. So we have 50 people in. We have Patrick and Sport. This is from one of our meetings. We are men and women and non-binary and from many different nationalities. I think we have more than 20 nationalities who speak English. We have homosexual and non-homosexual things in between. So it's a pretty diverse group, but we can always do better on the first. So we have, this is my office, we have a lunch thing, we have yoga, we have a massage therapist, we have all kind of things, but I think what we really have, and that I really value, is that we have a group of people who care really deeply about what it is that we build. And it's such a gift and a privilege to be able to work on something that feels really meaningful every day, together with a group of people who really care about the value that we try to bring to our users every day. A little breakdown of our team, in case you're thinking of starting or wondering why you need so many people for such a simple app. My mom keeps asking me that. Aren't you done soon? Well, actually, no. So we're doing a lot of really hardcore tech. We're doing a lot of investment into data infrastructure and data processing in many different ways. We put a lot of effort into well, I'll talk about this in a second. Basically, what we really want to do is to give these now you know moments where people open the app and they're like, and you learn something new about the body that you didn't know. But the app is not the only place that we do this, we also do it in other ways. So we just launched our website, or relaunched it. So now it's a place for health educational information. And we spend a lot of resources in creating this content and making sure that it's really scientifically accurate, that you can trust references in it, trust that it's coming from from a place that is, we're not paid by pharma or anybody else to create this content. We try to do it as neutrally and scientifically accurate as we can. Because what we've learned is that it's not enough just to track the data and kind of mirror the data back to the user as a graph or something. You really need to interpret the data as well. You need to make sense of it, and you need to make it actionable. And for people to take this data and have it, to make it have an impact in their life, they need to also understand things about their body. We keep recognizing that there's an acute lack of education about how this body really works. So the more advanced conversation we want to have with our users about their bodies, the more we also need to educate about how the body works. So to really have an impact, we also have to educate. And we also, of course, do this content on social media and other places so that we can have many people benefit from this information. Another part of what we care about is moving female research forward for kind of the benefit of society more broadly, not only our users. So we've done a lot of collaboration projects with universities, Stanford, Oxford, Harvard, Columbia, other really great institutions, also the Max Planck Institute here in Germany, because there are still so many things that we don't know about this cycle and the female body and how this interacts with the rest of the body. So we keep being surprised every day where we go to the academic literature and there's a big wide open space. So we have now this really unique possibility to bring an anonymized data set to some selected researchers, and they can help us make sense of them and apply to their studies. And this is, you have to imagine, for a researcher sitting in some academic institutions, getting data sets of the magnitude that we can give them is like Christmas Eve. There was no way in the world they could get it themselves, and they've never had it before. Like the textbook that you read about female health are based on studies that are maybe in the hundreds, maybe in the thousands, really big. Now we have the millions. So that's really cool. And one of the things I would love to get going is that we can actually ask our users, like, what are the things you really want to know and understand? We can bring these research questions to the universities together with some data. We can learn something new, and we can bring it back to the users. And we can get this loop going much, much faster than research has ever done before. So, one of the latest projects we've done was together with the Kinsey Institute in the US to look at how women experience the use of condoms, because maybe surprisingly enough, of the many studies that have been done around condoms, people have always asked the guys, but it turns out that women also experience condoms and they are part of the decision-making process, etc. So it's quite relevant to also get that angle covered. And we asked our users if they wanted to participate, and we had 94,000 people participate. So, and this was within a couple of days. So again, this was, like that, it became the biggest studies ever made, which is very good for science, I think. I just wanted a rudimentary tracker to let me know when my cycle was going to kick off. And what I now have is an app that offers a wealth of information about my body and health through my own log data. It's empowering. For me, Clue is about enabling people to live in tune with their bodies and not have the body be something that we kind of push aside and kind of pretend is not there, and that reality that these body experiences give us is not happening. So that people can really live their life to the fullest. I believe that when we can live in tune with our bodies, we can organize our lives around how we actually feel. And I think we can have a stronger voice in the world. And I think that the world really needs to hear many different voices. I think it's a good place to start for a more balanced world, to have women actually be able to say, this is what I experienced, and I can bring it into contact with the world without it being something so shameful that we cannot share these experiences that are true for half of the world's population. So this is a good number, but our vision is to try and become a companion to that part of the world's population that have cycles. And as Monica alluded to in the introduction, actually also their partners, because what I hear over and over again is that men actually really want to understand this part of life. They want to be able to support their partners. They want to take it seriously. And this is not just true in intimate relationship, it's also increasingly becoming true, I think, in situations where people develop products or services where they have to remember that there is this reality that women live that is different from their own. And this unfolds in many different ways in life. So women log around 250 million data points every month. So we are honored and trusted with very intimate data that we care very deeply about protecting and taking good care of. And my ambition is to have very, very transparent and clear agreement with the users so that users understand what are they giving and what are they getting. Where does the data go? Because I feel in a lot of digital experiences, it's actually not just you and me having agreement, but there's all these other people that are part of the conversation that a user don't know about. Data being sold left and right without users knowing it. And I think I want to live in a world where we rather pay for what we get, but then we also know that it doesn't go somewhere else. And this is something that the digital world has maybe not been so good at living, or maybe other people have other ideas of how to handle data, but I feel that there is such a need in the world right now to actually demonstrate that we can build data companies that have good ethics and that you can actually trust. And I feel we have actually a responsibility to try, because if I don't build that data company, I'm sure somebody else will, and who knows what ethics they might apply. So I feel like, you know, if you care about data privacy, as I do, you shouldn't shy away from building a data company, but you should just build it the way you think it should be done. And so that's what we strive to do every day. So on that note, I also want to say just a few words about how to make money, because as you saw, we have raised money, so we've been in this privileged position that we have been able to focus on product development and growth and haven't had to make money. But now we do want to make money, and the reason why we want to make money is because that's the way we can be a sustainable company and keep serving our users, and also have the freedom to do it in the way that we think is the right way. So we are going to launch, I'm not going to say much about it because it's not launched yet. We are going to launch something in June that I hope that we can communicate our principles of monetization and describe why we think this is a way that hopefully will feel good for users. I also think it's helpful to have a consumer-facing business model so that people can understand how we make money, because one of the issues we have right now is that people don't understand how we make money, which is understandable because we don't make any money, but then they assume that we must be selling the data or doing something else that they don't see. So, as I mentioned, I believe there's a whole business category on the rise that we have coined a term for, FemTech, and it's estimated, it was recently estimated by Frost & Sullivan to become a $50 billion market by 2025. So that's a significant category. And we host a summit every year for company founders and CEOs of FemTech companies that we think are doing something really interesting in this space. So these men and women, I believe, are going to change how we think about female health, how we use technology to solve many needs we have around female health, and also drive this cultural shift that I believe is happening around female health, which is important because that makes more investors comfortable to invest in this market or in this industry. And believe me, there is so much opportunity there are so many products and companies that haven't been built yet. In this space, we see opportunity every single day. So I think investors are starting to realize that this is a big untapped market. So I'm very excited to see what more FemTech companies will come up in the coming years. I want to show you a short 2-minute video about kind of a recap of
goal is to enable everybody to really understand what's going on in their body so that they can navigate life. Before Clue, I started and ran a motorcycle touring agency with my dad, so we made motorcycle tours all over the world. I've always been very curious about my body and been tracking. Because hormones didn't really work for me, I thought, well, what if I could just use data to really understand my body? Then I could navigate life much better.
Imagine if there was a part of your life that happens and you had no control over it. And you might not even be aware of how much it impacts your life. Clue gives you the tools to do that.
We built an app where you can track your menstrual cycle, and you can also track different symptoms that occur and get an insight about how it changes and how they change throughout their cycle. And you can use these insights to improve and adjust ways that you experience life in the future.
Clue's vision is to enable women all around the world to have insight into their bodies and to be empowered by that knowledge.
The fields of menstrual and reproductive health are vastly under-researched. Our support team gets hundreds of emails every week about basic health questions of how the body works, what is ovulation, when can I get pregnant. These are things that a basic education in menstrual and reproductive health could cover. So,
I'm interested in building a healthcare brand that's global and that women all over the world trust.
We built a website that should become a one-stop shop for menstrual health information. We're trying to give people the power that comes with understanding their own bodies.
Without menstruation, none of us would be here.
Before women have full kind of ownership and understanding of what's going on in their body, we won't have an equal world.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Very curious to hear if you think differently.